Well, good morning, fellow Guardians. Almost didn't see you there. Hello. So, moving on from last week, which was the inverted spire. Hopefully, you guys got this done. We found it a lot easier than we were expecting without that sort of glitch where you could have one person stay up top. But we dropped down, he was gone within a few seconds. So, really wasn't that bad at all. So, moving on from the inverted spire, this week coming up, we have the Warden of Nothing. Now, in terms of champions, we have all three in the Warden of Nothing. So, you have Anti Barrier, Overload and Unstoppable, so make sure you build your builds accordingly. There is also Void and Solar Shields to take into account as well. So, moving on to our builds. Now, my full team build here, I haven't got a single Anarchy. If you wanted to run Anarchy, you can. I don't think it's going to be that useful throughout this, but again, it's completely up to yourselves. Now, as you can see, as it's Anti-Barrier, Overload and Unstoppable, my Warlock here covers all three of those options. It also covers a bit of Void for the Grenade Launcher. Now I've gone for the Divinity as a Exotic just because not only does it do the Overload champions, it also creates that sort of field around them which does increase damage for your teammates, which will run really well with the Exotics I'm running on the other two characters. So, another thing to mention, however, if you did want to run Divinity but you want to do some damage yourself, you could also run a Lasting Impression rocket launcher. So what you can do is you can shoot that rocket on the target, switch to your Divinity, and by the time that bubble pops up, that Lasting Impression will explode and you'll get exceptionally more damage as well. So obviously mod-wise here, I've gone for Anti-Barrier, Scout Rifle and Unstoppable Grenade Launcher for these two, and the Overload on the Divinity. So that's all three covered just on the one character. So that's really, really helpful to use. Definitely worth having one person on your team which is like that. Now, in terms of supers, there's two you can go for which I would recommend. One is the Warlock Stasis. This has been just so helpful this season, more helpful than I ever thought possible. Now, I don't normally run a Warlock as my main, but this season that's all I've seemed to run. In all of the Grandmasters, I've just ran a Warlock with this Stasis build just because of this turret here, the Bleak Watcher. If you haven't got it, just go and get it. It doesn't take long to do at all, so go and grab it. And in terms of the secondary aspect, I run it with a Glacial Harvest, but again, that's not essential. The only other thing I would say is essential with a Bleak Watcher would be the Whisper of Torment, especially in a Grandmaster Nightfall. This is because every time you take a little bit of damage, you get some grenade energy back, so you can just constantly throw these Bleak Watcher turrets as well. They slow the enemies, they just help the progress of the Grandmasters exceptionally well. In terms of exotic armor pieces, however, we've gone for the Eye of Another World. I normally run this. Again, you can either do this or the Verity's Brow, one of the two. I prefer the Eye of Another World anyway, and in terms of other perks, run what you want to run. If you're doing this stasis build, I would recommend some Discipline mods just to sort of get that grenade back even a little bit quicker as well, and Breach and Clear. If you're running a grenade launcher, just stick it on. I know it costs 9, which is quite a lot, but it does help tremendously. Even if you're not running the Divinity, just stick it on, it does help. So that's it for the Warlock build that I have done. Moving on from there, now so just remember the Warlock running the Divinity, so in order to do the damage with the Divinity, I've gone for an old favourite for my remaining two Guardians, the Izanagi's Burden. Now, this was a sort of duo thing. This worked really well together. The Izanagi and the Divinity worked so well together in previous Nightfalls, Grandmasters, and this is sort of before Anarchy was actually used that much. But Divinity and Izanagi work so well together because of the output of damage when you do that honed edge shot. Especially if you've got two Guardians running Izanagis, normally you can one shot or get pretty close to a finisher on one Overload champion, which works just essential. So helpful as well. Now, in terms of other sort of bits and pieces, on the Hunter, I've gone for a rocket launcher, for a bit of Void, and I've gone for a hand cannon just for the Overload. You can't actually see it on there, I better put a cheeky Overload on there. There we go. So, it's nice to have, I know we've got the Overload on the Divinity, but it's nice to have one with a primary weapon on a different character as well, just in case your main Warlock, for example, dies and you haven't got any Overload which you'll need. So it's nice to have that. Now if you wanted to, you can have both as well. You can always have a grenade launcher for Unstoppable, but again, that's up to yourselves. Unstoppables aren't as essential because you can slowly tick down the health and they don't get it back, but Overloads and Anti-Barriers, they get it back pretty quickly, as I'm sure you're aware. But that's it for there. So obviously the solar, because there's a little bit of solar, it's nice to have a primary weapon on for each side, so Void and solar. So make sure you take that into account. In terms of super, now for this specific Nightfall, I would definitely recommend Void. I know a few people want to run Stasis, and that's up to you. If you want to run it, you can. But Personally, Void's going to be the best way for this, especially if you're doing it legit. If you get to that final boss room, you need something to sort of support. You need a support character. You need someone who can go invisible if all goes tits up, basically. Now, I like to go for the bottom tree here just because of the grenades, and you can just smoke bomb your teammates as well. You can run through it quicker, you can skip bits if you wanted to, and it's just a nice bit of survivability if it's needed. If you wanted to go for solo survivability, you could go for the top tree, and you can tie that with the 6th coyote to give you 2 dodges. But honestly, that is what I would run. Definitely have a hunter with void on either top tree or bottom tree. It doesn't matter, just for that invisibility. It helps so much, and it could save the entire Nightfall. So that's pretty much it for what I've got for my hunter. Obviously all the mods to sort of accommodate as well. Now I've got breach and clear on there. I know I'm not running a grenade launcher, but if that would sort of be tweaked if I was running one. But that's basically it for the hunter. So let's move on to the Titan. Now, Warden Nothing is, we actually quite enjoyed it. There's a lot of sort of indoor areas, there's a lot of close areas, there's a bit of long areas, there's a bit of all sorts in there. It was one of our more enjoyable ones to do. But in terms of the Titan, now I've gone for the Ursa Furiosas, which is, if you watch any of my sort of prep videos, you'll always see a Titan on there, and you'll always be running the same thing. There is a few people that would like to run the Titan with the sort of stasis and things, or if you're going for just full-on damage, you can go for the middle tree Thunder Crash with the old Cuirass of the Fallen style. But for a bit of survivability, for yourself, for your teammates, grab some orbs for your teammates as well. Be a team player, run the Titan with the middle tree Void. Just so you get that shield up, you take some damage, you're popping orbs for your teammates, and just with the Ursa Furiosas, you get about 75% back on your super. So a few seconds later, you've got your super again. It just helps a lot, especially in the Warden of Nothing. There's a few rooms where you're just quite enclosed as well, especially when you've got to capture the 3 plates, or the 3 mines, sorry, that you've got to defuse them. So you can jump on there, you can pop your super, and you've got one done, and you can just worry about the other one not as quickly, essentially. So, obviously on the hunter as well, same as that, I was running the Izanagi's Burden. 2 Izanagi's Burdens, it's just a lot of fun to use as well. Make sure you run, obviously, Sniper Rifle Scavengers and Sniper Rifle Reserves, because you're going to need them. Because obviously you're taking 4 shots and making them into 1 each time. But in terms of the kinetic weapon, I've gone for an anti-barrier. This is because the hunter was obviously running the Overload, and the Warlock is running both. But it's nice to have another anti-barrier as well. Now the hunter was running the solar as a primary weapon, so I've put on a gnawing hunger for this. Also you could run a vouchsafe, scout rifle, or a royal chase, just for a little bit of void as well. But I've chucked on a gnawing hunger because I've always enjoyed the gnawing hunger, especially the last couple of seasons. It's been really good since the nerf even then. And for a heavy, I've gone for a solar rocket launcher. I quite like this one. This is from the new raid, from the Vault of Glass. But if you've got a different grenade launcher will probably be even better. I know it won't outdo as much damage and things, but it will also help with the unstoppables and the breach and clear as well. But that's basically it, guys. It's going to be a really easy one this week. If you stick to the glitches, but if you don't stick to the glitches, it can be difficult in that boss room. You just got to keep moving around, make sure nothing gets up behind you, and just keep chaining your supers together. If you are going to do it legit in that boss room, I would recommend you have a Warlock with a well. That would probably help it tremendously, especially with a Titan constantly making orbs. So just run the support classes just to be safe, because you don't want to get all the way to the boss room. He's nearly dead, and then you will die, and you go back to orbit. You don't want to do that. So good luck, guys, with this week. Week 5, we've nearly finished for another Conqueror Seal, and this will be Conqueror Gilded 2 for a lot of people, myself included. So very much looking forward to it. But good luck this week, guys, and let us know in the comment section how you get on, or if you're going to be running a different build as well. Okay, toodles!